We are just entering summer at Rikwaterera village, 30 kilometers outside Rundu town in Kavango region. This is just another day in Namibia, and people all over the country are getting ready to begin their daily chores.
Wee, Lorinda gbi. Gbi dumbu.
Lorinda's disappointment is apparent. It is almost becoming a culture that there is no breakfast or leftovers to take to school, but only a bottle of a home brew made from fermented maize meal that her aunt, who is also her guardian, prepared. Lorinda is one of the many vulnerable children across Namibia, and what makes her situation worse is that she is also an orphan. Going to school on an empty stomach has been the norm, and this morning is no different, but because she believes that education is the key to unlock many doors to a bright future.
Good morning, class.
Good morning.
How is the morning?
We are very well taken up and ready.
Thank you. Sit down. Okay, our first period will be natural science. We are going to start with natural science.
From the look on many faces of the learners, they seem unhappy because they did not have breakfast and they don't have lunch money. Few did have breakfast, but this is not the case with Lorinda, a grade 4 learner at Rikwaterera Primary School.
What food can you see there? Yes? What food is that?
Banana.
You can see banana.
It is equally true that Lorinda's lack of concentration in class is due to hunger, and that in the long run, it will negatively impact her school results. The old wise saying will always be a school of thought today and tomorrow, that a child with a happy stomach concentrates better and is most likely to pass with good grades. Namibia, a vast country with a population density of about 2.1 million, and over 60% of the population resides in rural areas, the natural aridity that characterizes the national landscape is not the best in terms of agriculture and subsistence farming because of low rainfall and soil fertility. However, without mincing words, a national round of applause goes to thousands of volunteers serving the school feeding program around the country. The school feeding program, an initiative-born philosophy and practically tested within many communities elsewhere in the globe, is proving to be a credible success. The use of volunteers countrywide is paying dividends, and the Namibian government is feeding the hungry children and saving at least 100 million Namibian dollars. Because these women are taking a break from their home chores and using their time to assist with feeding learners at schools like this one. Kasivi Antonia and Frankilda Kamba are community members at Rikwaterera village, and they decided to honor the national call as cook volunteers.
She said that they volunteered to cook for the kids because before it usually used to be like each and every household supposed to go and volunteer to cook, but after a while some people like stopped. Only now and then that people will come. So she told her friend, the other lady, so they would usually come and volunteer, because when you come and volunteer they're always told they'll be given 2 cups of maize meal to also go and cook at their households. So she continued with her friend to keep cooking for the kids, because later onwards they were now told that since you two are the ones who usually volunteer to come and cook for the kids, you will now get a certain payment for your work now. She had seen that the school feeding program is very important because most kids do not eat breakfast at their households. So when they get at school, at least this feeding program, when they get to have this pap, and yeah, it helps them to concentrate in class. Even at lunch, some kids when they go back home, they don't get to find lunch. So at least if they have eaten this pap at school, it will keep them stronger for a longer period, probably until their parents will find food to feed them.
What you see at this school store is just the tip of the iceberg, as commonly said. When you travel to over 1,400 schools countrywide, you will see stocks of maize meal and sometimes other foodstuff in stores and warehouses. The success of this feeding program is well calibrated, and the monitoring system is one whereby monthly reports are submitted electronically to the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture for evaluation and continuous improvement. Thanks to the development of a software called the Namibia School Feeding Information System, NASIS. This system was custom developed for the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture with the assistance of the World Food Programme. Learners know the sound and time of that bell so well. This is because it tells them one clear message: it is porridge time. The volunteers are so well trained and know how to cater for these children. One of the first songs being taught at schools is how to wash faces and hands. Hand washing before meals is an important routine of the school feeding program. Only 40% of schools participating in the school feeding program have proper hand washing facilities. 20% have water shortage. Lorinda, as well as most of her schoolmates, do value this meal because at home their families are struggling to provide meals, and the question on many minds is, what would happen to the likes of Lorinda and most of other children if this feeding program were to stop and the bowls of food is equally no longer available? The schools and all those associated with the smooth running and operations of the school feeding program are working in close collaboration with all stakeholders because they want hygiene and punctual delivery of foodstuff and serving of meals. The issue at hand is not only a concern for the ministry and families of children, but also some members of the community and business sector. That is why they are coming on board and lending a helping hand. These young learners are our national investments, and if all join hands together, government, families, the private sector and communities, we will be adding value to education and the social well-being of the future leaders of the country. Namibia is the only country in Africa with 2 deserts, and studies do assert that in times of drought, which is consistent with geographical patterns, is adversely affecting children. 1 in 10 children have only 1 meal a day. Another 50% have only 2 meals a day. For many, one of those meals could be the meal provided by the school feeding program. There is no doubt in the minds of the learners, the volunteers, the teachers, and even the parents at home that the resounding success of this feeding program is an umbilical cord to academic and well-being of the children. The responsibilities of the selected school feeding focal person are critical in ensuring hygienic conditions, quality services, and continuous improvement.
We normally use 1 sack or like 1 bag, but for today we use 2 because there are a lot now. The second one is just half. They just left a half because there are a lot of learners today. And then at the end of the month, that's the time I'll sign the way so they can focus person.
Oh.
At the end of the month, yeah.
Okay.
Today's meal went very well. The parents who volunteered to cook and serve today's meal did a great job, and every learner had finished his or her meal by the end of the meal break. It is a truism, as research has shown, teachers throughout Namibia, as in the rest of the world, have noted the difference school meals make in the lives of vulnerable children.
She said that the pap given to learners gives them energy to concentrate in class and pay attention to teachers. But if it isn't given to them, it will lead to a high absenteeism to learners, and most learners tend to doze in class because they probably don't have much energy to listen or concentrate in class.
Teachers report that before the meal break, many of the children seem distracted and unable to concentrate. After having their school meal, though, they seem happier, more alert and focused, and participate better in their lessons.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Little choo-choo wants to play. Rain, rain, go away.
Regarding the feeding program, it has been helpful for our school, but mainly it helps the San learners. There are these people who don't have that courage from home to proceed coming to school each and every time. Once there's no food at school, we experience a lot of problems at school. Absenteeism, the statistics becomes higher. Some will drop out. Then they'll tell you, no, yesterday or the last week I went in the bush to collect something. They'll still go back in the old ways of gathering some fruits and so on. And you don't have anything to tell them because there's no food at school. But then I've seen one of our learner, who's Lorinda. She's one of our hardworking learner at school. She's actually a vulnerable child and she has lost both her parents. She is an orphan. But you can see she has that courage to come to school each and every time. And she just recently got the best overall performer at school.
Lorinda is excited about the good marks she got in last week's test and how well she did in the class quiz today. What does the meal Lorinda gets at school every day mean to her family?
At some point, the responsibility is still within her. She fully does not really rely on the school simply because they are being given soft porridge or so forth. She still has to do her part as a guardian to look after the child when she's back home from school.
Almost every household in every village seems to have been badly affected by 2 years of drought in a row. School Feeding Programme is also aimed at making a difference in the communities during these difficult times. Lorinda's aunt remembers how, before the introduction of school meals, some children had refused to go to school because of hunger, while others were kept at home to collect wild fruits and berries or herd other people's livestock. This is mostly the case when the drought is severe and no government food rations.
Most of the food used to be found in the wild. For example, these ones that you are seeing now from trees, probably some monkey oranges, some little fruits, probably like during rainy seasons when they start growing up. Those are just like the little food they all use now to raise up this little child, not mainly by something very fancy or anything like that.
Lorinda's aunt is pleased that the school feeding has ended those days. She says she has no words to thank the community volunteers and teachers who help out without extra compensation, and the government for providing the resources for the school feeding program. Lorinda has plans. She is working hard to achieve her dream. The meal she gets at school is vital if she is to achieve that dream, especially when times are hard at home and there is not enough to eat, and her aunt and guardian is also tasked with taking care of her own children and others at the settlement. The meal is fortified with vitamins and other nutrients, helping Lorinda stay healthy, attend school regularly, pay attention during lessons, and do well in her studies. If she can continue on this path, Lorinda is sure she will achieve her career objectives. Mushongo is one of tens of thousands of young Namibians who over the past 25 years have benefited from the Namibian School Feeding Programme. They were able to achieve an education and today they are self-reliant. We caught up with Mushongo, who was one of the many beneficiaries at Rikwaterera Primary School and is currently a teacher for adult education at the same school. Mushongo tells us how the school feeding helped him to complete school.
If it is bread, if I eat porridge, when I come after break, it helped me to concentrate. My parents save money by terms of not giving me money to buy some cakes or bread for eating at school. It helped me to complete the school because primary it is my foundation of the education.
The meals provided at the school made a big difference in Mushongo's life. Mushongo also gave information to create understanding of the importance of the school feeding program to learners. In his view, Namibia has gotten fair value from the hundreds of millions invested and is still being invested in school feeding. Hearing it from the horse's mouth leaves no doubts in the minds of many. Assertively, that Mushongo's path to success was not an easy one. When Mushongo's life and that of Lorinda is juxtaposed with hundreds of thousands of other children being supported by the Namibia School Feeding Programme, the essence of the concept, need and assessment comes to play. The past 2 years has been characterized by drought, crops have perished, cattle have died, and farmers have counted considerable losses, and the disappointment of families and parents of learners cannot be wished or washed away. The impact is malnourishment, many nights going to bed hungry, and thus affecting growth and child development. For children growing up in such adverse circumstances, a nutritious school meal every day can be a game changer. In the final analysis, for disadvantaged children for whom hunger is a constant reality, a school meal can be all that stands between such children becoming school dropouts or success stories like Mushongo. If the school feeding program can also help Lorinda and 330,000 other beneficiaries break free from the cycle of poverty and hunger, it would mean two things. First, Namibia has a bright future indeed. And second, every cent of the 100 million Namibian dollars the government spends on school feeding program every year is money well spent. The Namibian School Feeding Programme has been one of the noticeable success stories amongst Namibia's growing array of social safety nets. But there are many more children out there still in need of help, and therefore, the program needs to expand. The envisaged public-private partnership initiative by the government of Namibia will also assist to further contribute to the successful implementation of the school feeding program. The new political catchphrase is inclusivity. The political will is heralding. no one should be left out of the Namibian house. Also, it is common features these days to see the private sector and individuals coming on board to pull together in the spirit of Harambee.
I'm happy to participate in this program because the learners, they are going to write exam, so it is very good to get their food, to receive their food, so that they can get power to do their examination. I'm happy for that. The government can go continue to do this work.
Children of school-going ages are the most vulnerable, especially those who reside in poor communities within the rural and urban sectors of the country. With actions matching words, there is a real potential to give every Namibian child the best possible chance to go to school, stay in school, thrive at school, and become part of the Namibian success story.